Experience Cyclone Filter Cleaner, the smarter, faster way to clean your pool filter. Tired of slow and messy filter cleaning that leaves your back hurting? Cyclone Filter Cleaner changes that. Now you can clean 4 filters in 15 minutes. Designed by pool pros, its spinning action reaches deep into every pleat without you bending over. Just connect your hose, slide the filter on, and watch the magic happen. Clean smarter, faster, and easier with Cyclone Filter Cleaner.
Hey Pool Pros, tired of roasting under the sun in gear that doesn't hold up? Revd Apparel has your back with SPF protected apparel made for the pool pro. Want to stand out from the competition? Done. No minimum orders, no inventory stress. We handle the design, posting, printing, and fulfillment, so you can focus on the grind. Whether you're a single pooler or managing a whole fleet, this is how you gear up smart and stay sharp. Check out RevdUpApparel.com. Built for the pool pro, designed for the proud.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer. Trusted by over 30,000 pool service pros across North America, Skimmer software helps you save time, grow revenue, and boost your 5-star reviews. Whether you're just starting out or owning the market, Skimmer's easy-to-use tools and expert support have you covered. Upgrade your business in 2025 with Skimmer. Visit getskimmer.com/tip of the day to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
Yeah. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride, and listen to the big homie Pete the Pool Guy. Dropping game, keep it real, put the knowledge on deck. From backyard pools to collecting them checks. Ain't no gimmicks, no stress, just some free flow talk. Breaking bread, building up, gotta walk that walk. From the chlorine to the hustle, every move got a plan. If you work it the right way, you can level up, man. Pool Full Podcast, let's vibe. Game so deep, let's ride. From the valley to the masses, we know. Let it flow, let it flow, let it flow. Pool Full Podcast, let's vibe. Game so deep, let's ride. From the valley to the masses, we know. Let it flow, let it flow, let it flow.
What's up, Pool fam? Welcome back to the Pool Fool Podcast. It's your host, Pete the Pool Guy, and today, usually we talk about pools, hustle, life, everything in between, but today's episode is going to be a little bit extra special for me. We're sitting down with Don from Revd Apparel. And now Don and Revd Apparel is a brand that is a brand new sponsor to the Pool Fool Podcast. They've had my back since tip of the day, and we've always been linked up. So I'm happy to have Don here. How's it going, Don?
Great to be here, Pete. Thank you for inviting us, man.
No problem, man. How's your day been, first of all, man?
Well, I started out with a nice breakfast, and then I had to go mow the lawn. So we had to shower and get ready for the podcast.
There you go. So first off, we're just going to kick it off, get to know you a little bit. So where are you from?
Originally, I'm from, I always typically tell people I'm from my mom originally, but originally my dad was in the military, so I was born in Virginia in the military base. We lived some time in North Carolina, and between there and a lot of time in Florida. I grew up in Florida.
So you traveled a lot? Moved around a lot?
No. Once my dad got out of the military, I was young. From there, we pretty much stayed in the local area of Florida.
Cool. So how long you been in Florida?
Oh, so this stint, I've been back since, I would say, 1992. After I graduated high school, I went off to the military, spent 5 years in the military, and then I did some crazy things, traveled the rodeo circuit.
The rodeo circuit?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
What did you do?
Well, I started out in the amateur circuit riding bulls. And
what?
Yes.
Are you serious?
I promise. Yeah.
Dude, I didn't know that.
Yeah, out in California, actually.
Whoa.
In San Jose, down in Modesto, down that in Morgan Hill area. So my roommate was in the military, was a bull rider, and got me to go out there and try it. It was fun. So we'd go to the amateur rodeos and ride. I went off to the Gulf War. Everybody stayed home. They continued to practice. when I got back on April 15th, which was tax day, remember it like nothing else, we headed off to my first professional rodeo. And I was not ready. I hadn't ridden. It was probably the stupidest thing, but I didn't want to get left behind from all my friends. So I got my pro card, and my first professional rodeo in San Diego. I took a horn to the mouth, lost a few teeth. Yep.
Ooh.
And then just a couple weeks later, up
You,
in
hold on. Your first ride,
in a
boom, straight to the
professional
mouth.
rodeo. Yes, sir. Whole different higher caliber of bulls. It's a different, the caliber of competition.
That's
So it
insane.
didn't work out well for me. So got my teeth fixed. A few weeks later, we're up in Oregon and in a rodeo, actually Northern California, in a rodeo, and got stuck in the inside of a well of a bull, which is the inside of the spin. And
Yeah, you're speaking
yeah.
different language, bro. What is a spin?
So when the bull's spinning in a circle, right? So it's going one direction, or left or right. And
Uh-huh.
so depending on which hand the bull rider rides with, depends on which direction you want the bull to go, right? So you always want to go. So when it's time to get off, the bull needs to go in a specific direction. That's what the rodeo clown does. He comes in to take that bull and spin them in an opposite direction if he's not going in the right direction for the rider to get off, to exit the ride, right?
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah. And so the clown is there to to direct the bull at the end of the ride, or in case the rider gets in trouble, he's there to assist and help him get out of trouble. And
Dang.
so what happens is when you're riding a bull, you've got rope in your hand, right? And if you open your hand, that rope will pop out very easily. But what happens is when your hand gets turned over onto the back of the bull, you can't open your hand. And
Right.
so when I can't open my hand, the rope won't pop out. So that's what we call getting hung up. And so typically when I
Oh.
got hung up, I was on the inside of the spin of the bull. So think of the bull spinning to the right. My
And you're in the
hand,
middle.
yep, I'm hanging by my left hand in the middle of that. And so he's turning into me and just hitting me in the face. Broke my jaw,
Oh,
broke my cheekbone.
damn.
Yes. Put me in the hospital. The military wasn't too excited about that because I was in the military flying in
You were
P3
still signed up.
air crew, yeah. So that was the destruction of government property. So that was a whole other situation I had to deal with. Yeah.
Yo.
But from that, I actually got into the bullfighting aspect of protecting the cowboy. So as I was injured, we'd go to the practice pen to practice. And so since I couldn't ride, I would stand off on the other side. And when the rider would time to come off, I would kind of holler at the bull and, try to distract him so the guy could get off. Well,
Gotcha.
as I was recuperating, I would go in a little closer, make a spin, make a pass, have a little fun. And from there, you start jumping the
You
bull.
crazy, bro. You crazy.
And so from there, I became a bullfighter, and I had to travel the Mexican Charro rodeo circuit in California.
What?
Yes, sir. And no
Dude.
insurance, no emergency vehicles there. They would have the Charro rodeos all day. They're riding, they're drinking, they're playing music. It was pandemonium in the afternoon about 2 or 3 o'clock. So when it was time to ride the bulls. So that's where I got my experience fighting bulls because nobody in the professional community wanted to hire me without any experience.
Right.
So I started getting experience that way, and then I remember running into a professional contractor out in California by the name of Dick Gervance. He's out there in Middle California, mid-state, and I asked him, what's going to take to get some rodeos, and he said, Don, he said, I can get anybody to fight bulls. He said, the money is in the funny, meaning that
Really?
you got to tell the jokes, make the people laugh, make the kids laugh. He goes, and they'll come back next year. That's where your value's at. So, formulated a couple acts from a buddy out in California, Bill Lyle, out there in Central California. Let me borrow some of his acts back east, and so I got my start back east, traveling the circuit full time, and found myself ended up back here in Florida.
Dude. So you were in the Air Force, and what were you
Navy.
doing in the Navy?
Yeah, I flew in P3s in the Navy. I was an air
Yo, so
crewman, so I tracked submarines. Actually, ran acoustical gear in which we tracked submarines from the plane.
you went from that to bull riding, then to what is that called? Um,
Then I got
in
into combat
Mexico.
sales.
What did you do in Mexico again?
Oh, that was the Charro rodeo circuit. I was doing that on the weekend still. I was trying to get experience trying to
Jeez.
fight
So
bulls. It was on the
so
weekend.
how do you go from that kind of lifestyle to the pool game, bro?
Well, so it was gonna.
That's a shift.
So from there, it was kind of like I'm getting 26, 27 years of age. What are you doing with your life? So I got into sales, got into office equipment sales, did that for 20 plus years, worked my way up through the administration. Um, and that was back, sold for Xerox, sold for Sharp, sold for a small dealer called AXA out of Central Florida. But from there, uh, went to the corporate world. And from the corporate world is right about when excuse me, the public world is when COVID hit right there. So right there, so I had a 5-year contract over in Orlando with a public company, and I finished that and took another sales director position with an office equipment dealership there in Orlando. Was making the drive back and forth to Tampa. My wife and I built a home here, so I was making that drive. And it was about 2 hours one direction, so I was spending anywhere between 4 to 5 hours a day on the road driving back and forth, just getting to and from work. COVID hits. My boss requires me to still maintain that drive. He lets a lot of the other people stay home. So I start thinking, okay, what am I doing with my life? I'm going to be driving back and forth. So you start seeing all these pools. Start seeing pools going up left and right. And I had been involved in the pool industry several years ago as an investor. We owned a HOA pool management company where we actually came into your association. We managed the pool, we managed the lifeguards, we managed the concession stand, we cleaned the pool, the chemicals, we did all of that, and it was
So you
seasonal.
did have prior pool knowledge and
Knowledge,
experience.
knowledge. I knew of the business, and so that's when I knew the profit margins were really great in the pool business. So that's when I said, how can I get back into the pool industry on a quicker level, an easier level, versus going out and buying a big old company. So service was the way to get in. So we purchased the route. We did that research for about 3, 4, 5 months. I listened to Chlorine King, Eric Taylor out of Largo, Florida, for 3, 4, 5 months. I felt like we were like best friends because I listened to him so much, just going back and forth. I had 4 hours a day to do nothing but listen and to binge on information. And I have an OCD type personality, so it fit well with me. So I
It
was
took
binging out
over.
on it. Yeah, building my plan. And then when the time was right, I went to the corporation, let them know we'd be leaving, and we set the chart. We gave ourselves plenty of time to get set up, um, and we've been off to the races. So I've had the pool business for about going to my 5th year now, and learned so much. I mean, truly, I'll tell my wife recently that I feel like this 5th year is when I really feel like I've come to understand the pool chemistry, how it all comes together. The buffering, the calcium levels, the carbonate alkalinity versus the total alkalinity, all the different pieces. There's so many different pieces. And so, the first 3 to 4 years was just trying to figure out how to keep that water clear from week to week. You know, salt system versus chlorine system. So that's been a great learning experience. And at the same time, having to manage the business, which I'm fairly well with. I've managed many businesses. Like I said, I was a chief operating officer for a public company. So I understand that whole back end thing. So that part I love. So getting to how we get to the apparel side. So we go into the pool business. I'm ready to go. I believe in branding, so I go out. I get the nice PFG shirts, the fishing gear shirts. I get them embroidered. We're ready to go. First week, I'm out training, and I come back at the end of the week. My wife's like, "Hey, you've got chlorine stains all over your shirts. You got
Right.
you got holes in them. What's going on?" And so, I'm like, oh man, this is expensive. This is going to get really expensive if I don't figure this out. So I reached out to my sister. We grew up in the apparel business with our folks, and
Your
researching.
parents used to do it?
Yeah, well, we did. Yeah, did signs, T-shirts. Yeah, the whole silk screen thing back in the day. And so, I asked my sister what type of materials out there are resistant to chlorine and chemicals, and she said probably a synthetic type material. You're looking at polyester, a moisture wicking type material, and she said, "No, by the way, we can also decorate that all over. We can decorate the entire material." So traditionally, Pete, as you know, when you buy a T-shirt, you usually have a left chest decoration, like the company, or you might have something on the front, or you might have something on the back, or you might have something on the sleeves, right? So
Mm-hmm.
those are the primary locations you can decorate a shirt. And the reason is because once the shirt has been created, it's been cut and sewn, you can't print through the seams, right? So you can't print through the seams. So the process we use is opposite of that. We actually print the entire fabric first, then we cut it, and then we sew it. So that allows us to decorate the entire garment all throughout. We call it 360-degree decorating. So you can put information or effects all throughout the garment. For
Otherwise,
example,
otherwise it would be direct to a DTF transfer, which those get hot with the sun. Like you're out there,
correct.
it's like, man, those things
So
get hot.
your DTF, your direct transfer film, also your silk screen, which is basically plastisol. It's just plastic.
Right.
It's plastic ink, and that becomes a heat shield. And so
Mm-hmm.
you're sweating underneath that thing. So if you've got a big bold logo, a lot of colors, you're going to be feeling that heat shield, because there's no breathing of the material. Whereas this material here, the color is actually dyed into the fabric, as you well know, right? So you can stretch the fabric and you can see right through it. So you can breathe
Oh,
right through
definitely. I
the fabric.
know, bro. I'm all revved up out
Good.
today. I got my
That's right.
original shirt. This thing has gone to war with me. And then I got the new ones that we just designed. It's so awesome. It's like you said, all this, you get to design everything on the shirt, from the color to the graphics to your logo to how
Yeah.
big the logo, how small the logo. So it's really, really cool in regards to that. So
Yeah. And what we found is, not only are you putting your name and your branding, right? So again, when you pull up to the account, who are you? Are you the guy that's got the bleach stained shirt? The trash falling out of the truck, the chlorine's dripping out of the back, and it's all rusted out, right? The bumper's about to fall off. Are you that guy, or are you the person that pulls up in a clean, loaded truck? You're dressed well. You've got a decent shirt. It may not be the cleanest because you've been out working, but they can see that it's branded. You got your logos. How many times have you been working and a neighbor comes up or somebody says, "Hey, can I get your card?" And you got your hand knee deep, elbow deep in a skimmer. And
mm,
so you're like, a card's like, you want to get the card. What if you could just pull your sleeve out and say, "Hey, scan my QR code," and
dude.
boom, they scan the QR code, takes them right to your site. They got all the information right there. It's even better than a business card because they can lose the business card. Whereas once I scan the QR code, I can lock it into my phone and I got you.
Now I see a different kind of shirt you got on that I haven't seen before.
So, all right. So
That
one of
looks
the biggest
cool.
requests, yeah, one of the biggest requests we're getting are for collared shirts, right? So everybody can do a crew style, a V-neck or a crew neck. But what about those times as a single polar? I'm working my day and I get a call in the field that says, "Hey, can you come give me an assessment for service?" Well,
Right.
you know what? You're all, yeah, it's a nice shirt. It's branded, but it might be a little dirty, but it's just a crew neck. What if I can pop on a little shirt with a little collar? We call it a sport collar. Now it gives me a little more professional look, right? When I walk up there, look a little sharper than the average guy. Again,
S-
it's all about separating yourself,
Stand up, bro. I gotta see that. I gotta see the full set. Let me see that.
right?
Look at that.
That's my full service company. We've got our branding for our logos, MPC certified,
You got anything in the back?
CPO certified, just my
There it
regular
is.
branding.
Look at that. Clean.
Yeah,
What
man.
does revved up mean for you though? On a personal level, man.
Well, if you know me, you know, I stay pretty revved up.
Revved up.
I'm geared up all the time. Yeah. Um, don't butt me in the chlorine line. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No. In regards to the business itself, are you the one designing the shirts? Do you have somebody that you work closely with?
Yeah, so we have a team we work with of independent artists. So what we'll do is typically the process is very simple. So people reach out. My wife will reach out with a consultation invite for a calendar invite to set up a time to meet. And anyway, sometimes it's short as 15 minutes. It's gone as long as an hour. And basically, she explains the program. She'll collect information from you as far as your colors, what type of elements you might want to see. Like, for example, you wanted to see, like, we did your first mock-up, and you came back and you said, I don't like anything about that, guys. I'll be honest with you. I don't like anything about it. And we said, okay, great. Now we know what you don't like. And you said, hey, you know what I do like is, and you listed off all the things that are actually in that garment you've got on right now. You wanted carbon fiber. You wanted military. Yeah, you wanted in black and gray. So
and then the hoodie, protect yourself from the sun.
Oh,
you have that
big hit, man. Big hit. I'm telling you, if you are a pool service professional and you're not wearing a sport hoodie in the summertime, you're missing out. You need to do that for yourself.
Yeah, and I love the fact, what I love about my shirt personally is that it's breathable. I'm a big boy, so I get hot really fast. I run really hot. So the fact that this is long sleeve and it's breathable, I'm good. Yeah. I'm good.
Look,
any new drops, designs? Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, any new drops, any new designs, anything coming out that you want to tease?
So we're going to have a bunch of new models coming out at the Vegas show. In Las Vegas for the International Pool Show. So we're going to have some new designs, more collared shirts we're trying to bring out. We've had a big request for those. As far as the designs go, every design's custom. So, every time we meet with a customer, we take that information. We then take that and send that off to the art team, right? So then they'll come back with a mock-up. And like you said, hey, I don't like this, but I do like this. And so once we work that back, usually about 4 or 5 times, it takes us to get it right. And then once you've approved it as the customer, we'll then post it and host it on our website, right? So we now become your fulfillment company. So not only do we have a creative design that's custom to you, now you can go to our website and securely order your gear as you need, when you need. Look, we can add mugs, we can add hats, we can add, not just shirts, but we've got racerback tanks for the ladies, leggings. Again, we're going to come out with a few more items for the show, so we're excited about that. But everything's custom, so it's your design. You let us know what you want to see on it, we can put it on there.
And then not only that, they don't have to order like 10, 15 at a time. If they just need one shirt, you just need one shirt. Just order one shirt.
That's how the program got started, Pete. I was going out looking for gear, and everybody was like, well, you got to buy, 24 PFGs. I didn't need 24 PFGs when I first started. Mm-hmm. I needed maybe 6, maybe 10 at max, right, to have 2 weeks worth of inventory for shirts. So, I found myself going out and buying them from, like the Walmart and stuff, and then taking them down to the embroiderer to get done. Well, what happens when you run out of inventory? You don't have that same color. Now you're mix matching. So this was a perfect solution for us, and it made sense. And so I was at the supply house one day, and a guy said, hey, man, love that shirt. Where'd you get it? And I said, I actually made it. And they said, would you make me one? And I said, sure. And that's kind of how Revd Up Apparel got going. We actually then went to a couple of shows. We went to the Florida show. We went to the Vegas show and walked the floor to see if anybody was selling apparel. And we didn't see anybody doing it. So we found there was an opportunity there. And so I think we're probably going into our 3rd year. And so, we're starting to get some eyeballs out there. We've sponsored the Pool Nation Awards last year. That was a great sponsorship. We're looking to do it again this year. Obviously, we just came on board with Talking Pools podcast.
Yeah, I saw them, man. I was excited to see that.
And I've been
waiting. That's my boy Rudy right there.
Well, I've been waiting to get some collateral from Pool Foo so I can make an announcement for that one as well. So
we're gonna make it happen. Yeah, no, I'm super excited. Like I said earlier, you've been a big supporter of my content, and I'm like, dude, this is a no-brainer. We gotta link up and make this happen. So Yeah, definitely. Revd Up Apparel are one of our new sponsors here at the Pool Food Podcast. So we're excited. Thank you, bro. Thank you so much for that. That's awesome. But let's talk shop real quick. I know we went through it pretty fast, but what's the name of your pool company?
So Revd Up Pool Service.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we have.
And what area? And what area in Florida do you service?
So I live north of Tampa in Lando Lakes.
Okay, so you cover that whole area.
Yeah, so we're like 40. I'm 45 minutes north of Tampa. In the community I live in, I've got probably half my pools, which is obviously the ultimate goal is to have all my pools in this area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I service approximately 80 pools right now. I think I'm at 76. I just let a couple go this week for slow pay. So in the summertime you can't have slow pay, no pay
No,
because I have to skip
not
a week
in the
and I come
summer.
back and the pool's green. Now we're chasing. So.
Gotcha.
But no, I have a great relationship with my pool customers. I believe it's a relationship. You're in their backyard every week. You're there in their safe space. So
And in Florida, are you guys seasonal or all year long?
all year round.
Yeah, same as here. Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
in the wintertime, it's a lot less.
Right. Right.
It's lower chlorine every week. It's a lot easier. But you want to be there, keeping the filters clean, making sure the water stays balanced.
It just switches. I find that in the winter, chemically wise, it just switches. You go from using a lot of chlorine to using a lot more
I
acid.
go from like in the summertime 20%
Mm-hmm.
supply to about 5 to 10% in the
Yeah.
winter.
Yeah. You know what? I was spending a lot of money on chlorine, especially during the summer. Not especially, only during the summer, because in the winter it was like not really that much.
Yeah.
But Blu-ray Excel is one of our sponsors as well. And man, as soon as I started putting them in every single pool during the summer, my expenses, I just posted it the other day. It went down dramatically, big time. Big time,
Of course.
because otherwise you start chasing the dragon, you start trying to
Yes.
chase that chlorine and it's just crazy.
So this season, I actually early on, so we had like a heat wave hit, right? And so I was like, oh my goodness, okay, summer's here early. So I immediately went into stabilizer, phosphates, get the phosphates taken care of early, get the stabilizer up. So all my chlorine levels were high. So all of a sudden it got cold again. And then all my customers are kind of like, Don, we're at a 5, we're at a 6 on the chlorine level. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, give it a couple weeks, it'll work itself
Yeah.
back down. But yeah,
So do your customers test their chemicals? Or are you letting them know the chemical reading?
yeah, I'm transparent with my customers. In my reports, I tell them exactly what I measured. I tell them exactly what I dosed and what chemicals. Look, if the technician, I think, is afraid for the customer to know because the customer is going to complain or have an issue, then that may not be the right customer for you. You know what I'm saying? Like I tell customers all the time, we're just not the right fit, and that's okay. I like to do it a certain way. You like it being done a certain way, and since you are paying, you get to determine how it's done.
It's your pool.
That's right, and that's right. That's why I tell customers, it's your pool. You do what you want to do, and if I can work within it, I will. If I can't, we'll figure it out. But yeah, it's I don't fight with customers. We're not going to have that relationship. If we don't tend to agree, well, then that means it's probably the season's over, right? That season's up for that relationship, and that's okay. But I try to be straightforward, take care of my customers, give them good service. I try to go a little bit above and beyond what the average person does. But again, try to do that relationship, give that little Christmas gift at the end of the year, a little thank you to say thank you.
So transparency to you is a big thing.
Yeah. I mean, I just, if I'm telling you I'm a professional and I know what I'm doing, well, then I shouldn't be afraid to put that out there. And if,
Right.
Look, if push comes to shove, I'm going to have to bring that report in and show it, right? And put that out there and say, look, this is what I added to the pool. This is what happened. And, and then we have to let the chips fall where they may. So, I mean, I've never, how long am I there? I'll tell you exactly how long I'm there. If I'm there 10 minutes, it's because I needed to be there 10 minutes.
Right.
When I need to be there 40, I'm there 40. And I don't come back and say, hey, Mr. Customer, I know we're typically gearing on 20 to 30 minutes, but I was there 40, so maybe I could get a little extra this week.
No,
I
that's
don't
not
do
the
that.
way it works.
No, it's not the way it works. Because
No,
again, in the wintertime, I'm not doing as much. You know what? I may not have to vacuum as much. I may have to skim as much. Get in and get out. It all works itself out.
I completely agree with that. What would you say has been the biggest lesson that you've learned since you started the business?
Stabilizer. Keep your stabilizer up.
Break it down.
If you try to just cheap out by keeping your stabilizer at 20 to 30 parts during the summertime, during the hottest parts of the summertime, you're going to be chasing your tail. You're going to be spending extra time at every pool every week. You'll be brushing extra. You'll be cleaning extra. You're going to be doing the filters more because you can't skip. You can't skip the brushing. Algae doesn't start out green; it starts out clear, right?
Right.
So you got to brush. So brush and keep that stabilizer up to keep that chlorine protected. You'll keep the stuff out of the pool that doesn't need to be in there. You'll keep that water sparkling like a diamond. Every one of my pools sparkle like a diamond.
That's what I'm talking about.
Or I make sure I follow up with them until they do. You know, for me, the customer pays for that pool to be sparkling clean when they want to use it. Not when I can get there and do it. You know, if it doesn't work out within the schedule I have, then I need to reach out to the customer and say, hey, look, we need to do extra things to make sure that pool is good for you. You know, my customer thanked me for stopping by yesterday out of schedule for cleaning his filter. Well, his pool was cloudy from the service the day before because of low chlorine. Well, I know that he's going to use that pool this weekend with his family. They're a big pool family. Small kids, it's very important. You know what I'm saying? Those pools are so important to families with small kids. I mean, those are babysitters, if you will, or helps you pass that time by. So I think it's important that if my customer pays me to keep a pool clean, that I should pretty much do what I can do, what I should do to make sure that pool's.
I love your way of thinking, going above and beyond. You know, not just the norm. You know, sometimes you gotta schedule. You gotta move your schedule around. Sometimes you gotta move some things around to make things happen.
Well, let me ask you this, Pete. You know, you can be right and lose. Right? So let's take, like I have a couple Kim only accounts, right? So in my Kim only accounts, I brush the walls. When people say, what's a Kim only account? Why would you brush the wall? Because I know the people that want a Kim only account, they don't want to do it. They don't want to do nothing. Right? They don't want to do any work, and they
don't want to pay.
No, they don't want to pay.
Yeah.
But the pool's easy enough, and when I took them on as I was growing my business, I took them on, and I said, okay, I know they're not going to do it, so I'm going to at least brush. And then if it ever gets out of control, I'll let them go. I'll just say, look, your part, doing your part, and I'm doing my part, so I got to let you go because I can't make up for your part with chemicals. It just doesn't mathematically work that way.
I mean, if they're not taking out all the debris from the pool, the leaves and all that, then you're constantly chlorine's constantly fighting. So that makes sense. And then the fact that you're brushing it, it's only helping you out.
Correct.
So,
that's my whole point. So my point was I could win by saying, you know what, I'm not brushing your walls or I'm not doing the extra because I'm not getting paid to do that. But when I come back next week, the filter's going to be extra dirty, so I'm going to have to clean the filter sooner, or it's going to be cloudy, so it's going to require more chemicals. And so it's just going to be where I've got to sit there and take more time to figure out what do I got to do to get this pool back to clear so I don't lose the pool, unless I want to lose the pool.
Then you
right?
gotta. So how do you handle? Go ahead.
No, so you got to go back to the truck sometimes and get that extra chemical. That's the specialty chemical that that I'll charge for.
Right. You got to do what you got to do. How do you handle the tough days in the heat though? Especially out there in Florida, you guys are more humid than us.
Yes,
we're more dry heat, but we get our humidity. But you guys are
So
how do you handle the madness?
The humidity causes you to sweat. Okay, and I'm talking like your entire body. You're like completely drenched by 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so whatever you put on is now completely soaked as if you'd been working all day. So that just means that you're losing water, right? So you're not retaining the water. So the key is
dehydration, bro.
Hydration is the key. So, but starting early. You can't wait till 1 o'clock in the afternoon when you're like, I'm feeling a little parched. I better start drinking. No,
No.
You should have already started doing that at 9 o'clock. So what I'll do is I'll drink my coffee from 7 to 8 to 9, and then after each stop, after 8:30, 9 o'clock, when I start sweating, I'll just take a swig of my jug. So I take a big jug, freeze it the night before, put a little water in the morning to start letting it start melt, and that thing will start melting throughout the day. And I just start taking swigs about 9:30 in the morning after every pull. I'll take a swig or two just to start getting water into my system. And I do drink I do drink an energy drink every now and again. Uh, throughout maybe the midday if I don't stop for lunch.
What about
Um,
electrolytes, stuff like that?
I should. I don't as much. I should. It's kind of like I should use sunscreen, but I don't. Right. So that's where the
I'm the
long
same way.
sleeve.
I don't use sunscreen.
That's where the long sleeves come in
Yeah.
to help me protect. Because my wife would always be like, "Look, you need.
I mean, you should use
You should.
sunscreen.
You should.
You
I've
know,
got
but
skin cancer."
I don't,
Yeah.
and because of it, my face burns whenever I sweat. My skin's always
It's in
burning.
your eyes.
Yeah,
It's all greasy on your hands. Now you're trying
yeah.
to keep the lid off of that pump and it's slipping. It's just a mess, man. And so my wife like, I got you I got like 2 or 3 cans of sunscreen in my truck. They're brand new, but
They're just sitting there.
yeah, but so that's why the hoodies come in, SPF protection. Like I said, we got the
Yeah,
hoodies now, like you're wearing with the mask, and we can actually decorate that face mask.
with your
Uh,
logo on it.
yeah, yeah.
Ooh, nice. I
So,
like that. What time
uh,
do you usually start your day?
I start my day as soon as I can. So when I had my commercial pools, I started my day at 4 o'clock in the morning. Now with no commercial pools, I sold those off a few years ago. Now I start my day, depending on what the time change is, I'm usually as early as 6:30 in the morning, my first pool. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I'll do is I'll work it out to where my first pool is a house that's either for sale, it's for sale that nobody's living at, or I have a lot of snowbirds that come back and forth. And so I'll start my day at their pool when they're not there first. Or
Gotcha.
the ones that get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and usually when I show up at 6:30, they're sitting out on the deck having coffee. So we can have a little chit chat.
Yeah, I usually start my day at 6 in the morning,
Okay.
latest 6:30. But yeah, 6 is let's go. Time to
Yeah,
go.
you got to be careful, man, because you'll get the call of, hey, I'm sleeping. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I get it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's happened before, definitely.
but
But
it,
the ones that I already have in my mornings, it's like you said, you kind of schedule the ones that you're like, okay, these people are gonna be cool with coming early, you know?
but in the summertime, we have to get started early, man, or we will
Yeah,
get blocked out by the rains. Our rains in the summertime, you've got the two coasts, so you get the weather that's pushing in from both coasts, and by the time they get to the middle of the state, they collide, and then they push back, and that's when the thunderstorms start. So as they
so that
push
usually
back
happens every day in the afternoons.
in the summertime, yeah, the rainy season. Yep.
Whoa,
All the heat and the humidity rising up in the air and causing it, and they come together and they collide the two fronts, and then boom, they push back, and that's when all the storms
how does
start.
how does that affect your chemistry?
So I always heard in the beginning people would say, "Oh, we got algae in our pool because the rains," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's why, yeah, the rains and stuff." No, I think it's because I wasn't putting enough sanitizer in the pool. Okay, but I would use it. I don't know how
You're
true
like,
that
yeah, yeah,
is.
that sounds about right.
I don't know how true all that is, man. I mean, yes, it does rain a lot in the summertime. The biggest thing is, having to drain, getting the customers to not drain so quickly. They'll as soon as they see water get close to the edge, they literally think their pool's going to
Yeah.
float out of the ground. And so it's like, no, it's not to, I promise, every gallon of water is 8 pounds. It's not going to go anywhere. And so, you get
So
the
obviously,
habitual.
it's affecting your chlorine.
It'll
It's
affect your
affecting your
salt, your
pH,
chlorine, your stabilizer, absolutely, especially
your
in the
conditioner,
summertime.
right?
You'll show up to a pool, and so a new pool guy, he won't think about that. He'll see the chlorine in the pool. He'll look the salt cells clean. He'll jack the salt cell up. Come back next week and still no chlorine. That's because there's no stabilizer in the pool left because they're draining it. There's no salt in the pool for the system to make chlorine, and there's no
Very
stabilizer
important
to
to check
protect
your
it.
CYA. Very important.
Bro, stabilizer. That's the key.
Yeah, that'll save you a lot of money. A
Yeah.
lot of money on chlorine. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, your chlorine's in the water, what, 2, 3, 4 hours, and then it's gone.
And then algae's growing,
Yeah.
right? And if you got a trouble pool, every week you show up, it's you're going to the truck to get more and you're just racking your head, what's going on, what am I missing? And what it's missing is that you're just chasing your tail. You didn't put enough in the beginning.
Chasing
Now,
that dragon.
and so the problem with like an app, on our phones is that we'll look at it and go, okay, it says put in 1 gallon of chlorine. Okay, well that will work in a perfect world.
Right.
All right. If you had a lab pool in a perfect world where all this stuff's not
An
flying,
enclosed pool.
that's right. That may work. Okay.
Yeah.
But I tell people all the time, this is not a perfect world. You've got people spraying their grass with fertilizers all the time. I have pools on the golf course, and they can't understand why. I said because I'll tell them, look, you've got phosphates in your water. Well, where'd those come from? I'll just look around and go, look around,
Bro,
everywhere. Everywhere. you know, so it's like they come from the air.
Yeah.
So, but that's part of the fun.
Now, question out here, our hardness in our water is really hard. How is it over there with you guys?
So not at all. So like I said, hardness. I find myself in the beginning. This is kind of a funny story. In the beginning of my route, I would come to the store every month and I would do the calcium check once a month, and I would be buying 2, 3, 4 bags of calcium. And so the supply guy said, "Hey man, what are you doing with all of this calcium every month?" And I said, "Well, I'm putting it in the pools." And he says, "Well, what's your calcium at?" And I said, "Oh, between 250 to 350, depending on the pool." And he goes, "Bro, you got leaks. You got to have leaks or something." And again, I wasn't keeping the stabilizer up, so as you know, you leaky pool, it's going to be hard to keep it clear. So I learned a lot with that first route I had. So many leaky pools and just so many issues. It was a great training ground.
Yeah, those leaky pools will teach you a lot of chemistry, because
Yes,
you'll
sir.
start trying to you'll learn that you have to keep up with how much water is being comes out of the pool. You're like, okay, so I have to add an extra amount of chlorine, an extra amount of conditioner, an extra amount of calcium. Like you
Every
already
week.
know.
Almost every week if it's a bad leak.
Yeah, so
And
you
for
got to
those-
make sure you let your clients know, like,
Oh, I
hey,
do.
no, not you necessarily. No, the listeners, let them, let your clients know that hey, you have a leak, and if you don't fix that leak, then obviously your monthly rate's gonna go up, because I'm not paying for it. You're gonna have to pay for that.
So one thing I learned early on is, customers would come out and say, "Hey, Don, can you do this? Can you do that?" And they would obviously just want you to try and do it, right? And they wouldn't say, "Hey, I'll pay you." They would just say, "Hey, can you do that?" And so I think a lot of times at the beginning, we're like, "Yeah, I'll do that." And you start thinking, "Wait a second, I shouldn't do that for free."
Right.
So instead of saying, and then people start saying, "No, I don't do that, because I don't, whatever, either I'm not licensed or, I have to charge for that." I just started saying, "Absolutely, Pete, I'll do that. I'll take care of it. I'll just put it on the invoice for you."
That part at the end, I'll just put it
Yeah.
on the
I'll
invoice
just put it
for
on the
you.
invoice. I'll just put it on the invoice. Absolutely.
Then they're like, oh, wait, it's not for free.
If a customer calls up and says, "Hey, Don, can you clean the filter for me this week?" I'll look at the schedule. I'll say, "Hey, we just did it 2 weeks ago. Not a problem. I'll knock it out today, and I'll just put it on the invoice. I'll just add it to the invoice." Don't say no.
I'm gonna start using that. That's a
Don't-
really good
don't,
one.
Don't tell people no. Tell them yes.
Yeah, but I'm gonna put it on the invoice.
Hey, when you go
And
to
then
the
that way they know
restaurant-
it's not for free.
That's right. When you go to the restaurant and you say, "Hey, I don't want the fries. Can I get the onion rings?" They say, "Yeah, it's an upcharge." Yeah, okay.
Done.
That's the same thing. I need to add that additional charge to the bill.
Do you have any customers that fight you on the charges?
Never.
Never. Not
Again,
one?
never.
Because you're upfront with them.
Look, yes, what I'll do, so for example, if I say, "Look, you need a new filter cartridge," I'll say, "Hey, Pete, you're due for a new filter cartridge. If you want to reach out and grab one, you can. I recommend you grab a Pleatco or a Unicell." And I'm happy to throw it into the filter for them, no problem, right?
No charge.
No charge. I'll throw it in there, no problem. But I'm going to leave the old one there in the box for them to see that I replaced it, and they can dispose of it on their own because they purchased that. That's their deal.
Right.
Now, or I'll say, "Hey, Pete," or I can grab one at the shop and I'll be a few more bucks than what you'd pay on Amazon. All right. And so then I'm going to mark up the filter, probably 20, 30% at least. And then I'm going to put a little bit of a trip charge in there, right? For a service charge to do that, because I had to go
Right.
get it and I had to bring it. right?
So it kind of sounds cheaper for them just to get it on Amazon because they're gonna get the filter for less, and you're gonna put it in for free.
Sure, that's okay with me. That's okay.
And you're
Look,
okay with that?
I'm not trying to nickel dime my customers.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah, I don't share. I'm not the $100 a month guy. So I'm not the $250 guy either. Those guys. There's a place out there for those guys, but I'm probably your 160 to 200 guy.
Okay.
And so we do full service every week. We're going to drop a vac pretty much every week. Even if it's just doing a big W, we're going to drop the vac because people are watching.
Right.
And
Do you service the pools once a week or twice a week?
Once a week.
Once a week.
Once a week.
Okay. So every time you visit the pool, you vacuum the pool, unless
Absolutely.
it has a crawler.
Even if
Even if it has one.
Even if it has a crawler. Again, for me, Pete, when you're paying a premium price, you expect certain things, right? And so what's going to happen, right? So let's say times get tough. Hey, it's time to look at the budget. You know what? They're going to look at the budget and go, wait a second. All this guy does, he comes in here, he's in here for 2 minutes. He's sticking a strip in, he's out. I mean, what is that? I can do that, right? So yeah, again, you can be right and lose, right? Yes, you're doing a good job. You're doing the right job, but the perception is reality. And so, perception, they perceive you coming in. How many times have you met with a new customer and they say, hey, the guy comes in, by the time I see him, I come back to say
He's
something
gone.
to him, he's gone.
Yeah.
So their perception is their reality. Their perception is that guy is there, he's gone, quick and gone. He's not doing anything, right? How could he do that quick? I couldn't even get to him that amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So, you want to keep that in mind too, that, hey, when it comes time to look at the budget, I don't want to be the first guy they look at. I want to be the last guy. Right? I want to be like, oh, you know what? We got to keep that pool clear. That thing's always clear. The guy's here. He's working hard. He vacuums every week. He does a good job.
So since you're doing everything, completely everything on the pool, how long does it usually take you to clean a pool?
I'm there 20 minutes.
20 minutes
At least
is the
20
least.
Yes.
Right.
Unless it's bad weather. And in those cases, if we have any type of lightning, we go into a storm schedule. And then it's basically I will check the chems no matter what. I guarantee my customers I'm going to check your water every week. Unless it's just, there's just no way I can get out of the truck and get to the filter and put some water in a vial. You know what I'm saying? If I can't do that, then we're just going to have to pass it. But very rarely, Florida, set your clock. When the storms are pretty much going to come in. When they're pretty much going to roll out. So you can kind of gauge that. But just come in, do a good service, check the chems, check the pad, vacuum, sweep, brush, skim it out. I use enzymes on all my pools. I send the report. Certain pools I'll check the salt cell more than every 3 months. I'll just pull it out, just take a look. Just because, they're outdoor pools, they collect more debris. So, you learn your pools. You learn your pools. They're specific. Every pool's different. And so I've got my route down now to where I can manage approximately 80 pools in a 4-day period. I start my day at 6:30. I'm done by 3:30 every day with no problems, without running into any issues.
Dude, solid. Any funny, wild, or unforgettable customer stories you can share with us?
You know what? I don't think I have any of those.
Do they come out at all and talk to you? You have those customers that love to come outside and they'll just talk.
I do. I have several customers that like to come out and talk. How
do you, here's a good question. How do you stop the conversation? Because some of those customers, I have customers like that.
Easy.
That if I don't, okay, I got to go or anything like that, it's like, we'll be there.
All I do is I go, hold that thought. I got to run the truck and grab something. Excuse me. I got to run the truck and grab something. And I'll go hang out. I'll go to the truck and they'll usually move on. They'll go back to whatever they were doing. And when I come back, they're gone. Yeah.
You got a trick to it. I like it.
Yeah,
I tell them when I'm like, I'm like, all right, I got to get going because it's getting hot and I got to finish up. They're like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, I got to hit these fast. So yeah.
But
what's I was gonna say, what's one tool or chemical you absolutely swear by besides obviously your stabilizer. What tool in your truck are you like, oh, this is it right here?
Well, tool or chemical?
Let's do both. Well, chemical, you said you say stabilizer.
Stabilizer is, I think, is the key to keeping your pools crystal clear.
Okay, so let's
As far
go.
as
Let's go
cleaning the
chemical or
pools,
tool.
as far as cleaning the pools, I love Jack's Surface Magic
Gotcha.
with surfactant.
Yeah, to
That
calm
to
the
me,
water, see through
yes,
it.
it pushes everything to the corner for me. I can just skim it out the end. I think it's a big help.
Do you think it works better than soap and water, dish soap and water?
Don't know because I never used it, but I would
Okay,
wonder how would that affect the chemistry, right? So that would be my only question. But yes, I've
gotcha.
seen people use that, and it's probably a lot more cost effective for sure.
Yeah,
Jack's Magic Service Magic, kind of expensive, $8 a bottle, I think it is.
yeah, but you use a lot less because you're only dropping a couple drops in the
That's true.
pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it lasts you
So,
longer. What about
so
tool?
I'm big on that. I've been using there's a new product called Revive. And it's kind of one of those all-purpose cleanup products. It's got the phosphate remover, metal remover, clarifier. I think it's by AIP. I'm not sure. Johnny with the Grit Game is out there. He introduced me to it. So I'll use that on every pool. Throw a couple squirts in there. I don't want to put too much because when I want the filter to still run great for the next 3 to 4 weeks until I clean it. I clean our filters every 4 weeks. On
Every
like
4 weeks, so once
yes,
a month.
4 to 6 weeks max. Yes, in the summertime, you cannot let your filters go much longer than that. You'll run into problems, man. I mean, that's just where it starts. You know what I'm saying? The water will look clear, but the problem is in that filter. And if you don't clear that thing out every 4 to 6 weeks,
Circulation,
yes, sir,
circulation.
circulation.
What about tool?
Tools. Well, obviously, the vacuum is going to be a big game changer here. Locally, a lot of guys don't use vacuums, but you're seeing more and more of it. And I'll tell you that with the invent of the smaller, portable, battery operated vacuums, I think they're going to give the bigger guys, your RTs and your hammerheads, they're going to give them a run for their money because for the price point, they're right around a couple $100. You can pick up a couple of those, keep those in the truck, and do the jobs. Now that's going to be for somebody like in Florida, where most of our pools are caged. 95% of my pools are under a cage. So
I
when I
love that
walk
about
in,
Florida.
yeah,
You don't, obviously you'll still get dust that goes through the cage, but you
yeah.
don't get leaves or any of the other stuff, right?
Not unless a client likes to have a little bit of a jungle on their pool deck, which a lot of people do because they want.
Mm.
Now you take like South Tampa. My buddy at Berry Blue Pools, I've ridden with him, and bro, he doesn't have any screen pools, and they're all in this downtown area where the property, it's small properties, and so they're building these small pools, but they're building all these big plants and these palm trees and stuff around to isolate or to
Privacy.
include, to make privacy for the client to have swim. And so when he goes to his pools, I mean, it's like a hurricane. Like one of his pools on a regular day would be a hurricane pool for me, at that
Jesus.
event.
I
And I
have
told him, I
one.
said, I would quit the business if I had to clean your pools every day.
I have
I would.
one like that. It has a big old privacy plantsy. It's so tall. I literally every time I go, it's like a windstorm went through.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are crazy,
Biggest
man.
thing we get are the little bugs, little gnats and stuff will sit on top of the screens
Uh
in
huh.
the pool. And then when the rains come in the afternoons and evenings, it pushes all those gnats down into the pool surface. They're dead and they just float around on top of the pool surface. So literally you come in, it's a sheen of bugs. And so you just take a couple drops of Surface Magic and boom, it'll push them
Done.
all to the corner, skim them right out. That's right.
Any alligators? Any crocodiles?
So I've
You're
never
in
had an alligator
Florida.
in a pool. Yeah, it happens. It's never happened to me. I think Andrea
I
Nanini
saw that. That
and
was
her
crazy.
mom Paulette, I think they dug one out of a pool just a couple weeks ago.
I saw that on Instagram. That's why I thought about it. I was like, I wonder if you
It's
deal with that.
it's very real, man. Because what happens is all these builders are going into these communities. Take my community. I live in a preserve. Okay, I live in a preserve that's like a big swamp. And so they come in, they buy all this property, they build it up, they build these homes on it, and it pushes all this wildlife out to these other places. And so, suddenly you see an alligator. Literally, we've watched alligators walking down our street at night, just walking down the road, going from one pond, going from one retention pond to the other, or one lake to the other. They move around.
How do you have your kids outside playing?
Yes,
How do you deal with stuff like your dogs?
You need to know, that's right. During mating season going on like right now, do not be walking down around the edge with your small dogs or you around the edge of the lake in the evening especially. That's where they're at. They're waiting. It's a mating season. They're very aggressive. It's feeding time in the evening. And, a lot of people here, they move down to Florida. They don't understand. And they start feeding these gators. They'll start throwing them food. And guess what? The gator loses all fear of you. And now when he sees you fishing, he knows that there's some food on the end of that rod and reel. So they'll start coming over towards you while you're fishing. And they're coming over to get food. So, it's a combination of respecting the wildlife, and living with it, and just understanding the boundaries and, making sure that, again, you're not walking your dog, Fluffy down by the edge of the bank.
But then you said you'll see them down the street as well, right?
Well, they're going from one pond to the other.
Dang.
Yeah. Again, we're just built into a big marsh preserve area out here.
See, out here, you want to see an alligator or crocodile, you go to the zoo, bro. You don't see none of that. So for us to think like out here in California, so for me to think like, oh yeah, I'm gonna open up the front door and there might be one. Dude, that's insane.
Yeah. It could be very real, man. Truly.
Man, that's crazy.
So.
Is that one of the reasons why you say why in Florida there's a lot of the fences around the pools, those enclosures, or
the law for safety?
Or what's the reason for them?
Safety, safety for drowning. In the state of Florida, if you have a pool without a screen, without a gate, and someone drowns, you're going to be held liable. So as a pool pro, I don't care if the lawn guy's there and he's got the gate opened up. When I come through, I pull the gate behind me because I'm the last person to walk through that gate. And so, I don't need the lawn guy to say, oh, I was done, I never came back. And some kid come, stumbling into the backyard and drown. And so, drowning obviously is a big thing.
Yeah.
So.
So you, the pool man, would be liable, not the owner of the property?
That's
or the
correct.
owner of the property?
If I left it open, that's right.
Wow.
Last person to enter or leave that gate. If I left that open, that'd be my responsibility. Yep. And so what you'll see is a lot of people have the cage, and they'll have the gate, and then they'll also, I also have another fence around my backyard as well. So I've got two barriers that you have to go through in order to get into the water. And then if you have children, you need to have a baby gate, what we call a child gate, a fence, if you will, a child fence, to where they come and drill the holes, and you've got the mesh net that goes across. Right. Yeah. So I have a lot of pools like that.
Yeah. So then in Florida, they're a lot more strict with the law when it comes down to safety for the pools.
Well, I think everybody should be that way.
Yeah.
I mean, Florida is one of the number one states with the most pools, right? I think we're the number one for residential pools. I think Arizona is the number one if you include commercial pools. But a lot of pools, man. Just about every yard, has a pool. So
man. Well, thanks for sharing, Don, man. Thanks for sharing about the pools. Let's go. Let's switch gears again. Let's go back to Revd Up, man. You've always, like I said earlier, you've always been a supporter of the tip of the day of your boy right here. Way before we even, got you guys as sponsors. What made you rock with me? What made you stick around from day one?
Well, when you first get into the pool industry, you don't know anything. You don't know anybody. And so as a person, I love information. I love to learn. And so I'm a little bit OCD. So you'll find that once I get into something, I will dig into it. And so when I got into the bull business, I started joining the blogs, the Facebook groups, and Instagram, and started following groups like Talking Pools Podcast, the Pool Nation. Those are two of my biggies,
Yeah.
And then I met you through them, man. So I met you through Pool Nation and through the different events that they would host. And you and I, we met out in Vegas for the first time about 2 or 3 years ago. We were just getting the thing going, the company going, Revd Up Apparel. And
Yeah.
I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And we were walking around with just a sample in our hand, asking what would people think, what would they.
I remember. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so that was, when we said, hey, I think this is the way to go. So just, you always were friendly to me. You were kind to me. You were an influencer in the industry. I love your tip of the day. It was always fun. That's got to be a hard thing to do, every day of the year.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
no,
but
I kind of slowed down on it with business and everything that's going on. But
we met, we met the first year in Long Beach.
I was just gonna say that.
That was a hit. And that's really
That
when we
was
kicked the
awesome.
company off, man. I mean, yeah, we had a great turnout from the West Coast Pool Pros. We love the West Coast Pool Pros. Rudy with Rudy's Pool Service, man, that guy believed in us early. Love him.
Yeah.
There's so many guys. I don't even want to start naming people because so many people have given us love. Primate Pool Tools giving us love. The Dip app, Mike out there, man,
Mike's awesome.
he
Yeah.
shows us a lot of love. So, you know,
Awesome. Now that now that you are an official sponsor for the Pool Fool podcast, what does that partnership mean to you?
Well, I mean, it means education, right? Because you're all about educating the pool pro. I think it's for the single poler, man. I think that's where maybe our bond comes in, right? So we started
Yeah.
out single polers. You're out there all by yourself again. You're listening to people. Like I told you, the first time we met, I felt like I already knew you. And you're
Yeah.
probably like this fanboy. What's he doing?
Not
all over
even,
and,
bro. Yeah, no, I
just
feel like you
because
and I clicked right away.
yeah, because I listen to your tip of the day every day, right? It's like with Rudy with Talking Pools, and Andrea. I felt like I knew them when they came to our booth the first year, So it's like, so just listening to podcasts, you're by yourself. There was that welcoming spirit to say, hey, come listen to me, we'll help you. The guys out at Pool Service Software have been great. Nikki at Skimmer has been great.
Yeah.
Just the industry, no matter which badge you're wearing that day or whoever you're working for, everybody seems to work together to be, a collective group. So that's
That's
the part I've liked.
yeah,
You know,
that's the most important part that
the
I
inclusivity.
yes. I love that everybody's like family when it comes
Yeah,
down to it. It's
yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great thing that Pool Nation has done. So I think they brought a lot of people together through their boot camps, through their women's summit. Obviously, at the end of the year, the big award show. So they got quality sponsors. Chris with Blu-ray. He's been a big supporter of us, giving us a lot of love. So he's really given me a lot of inside information as far as things I should try and do. Uh, you know. Ways to market myself. So he's been a great mentor on the marketing side for the pool industry for us. So
Awesome. What do you want people to feel when they wear revved up apparel?
pride. I want them to be proud of their company, their corporation. They say the one thing that people love to hear is their name, right? The one thing they love to hear is their name. I think the second thing a business owner likes to hear is their business. They like to talk about their business more than themselves.
Yeah.
Because that's their baby. And so you want to get somebody talking, get a business owner talking about his business, and just tell me about your business and just let them go, and you'll see the passion, right?
That's
And
true.
because it takes it, man, to get up every day and to go out there and do it, especially in the heat. You guys out there, 110-degree weather. I don't know how you do it, man. It's 90 degrees here, and we're like, oh,
Yeah,
but
but it's dry out here is dry heat, so it's just cooking. You're
it's
just
different.
cooking out in the
Yeah.
sun. Over there, you're deep frying, bro. You're sweating it out. So
But
it's
I wish,
different.
I wish, I wish I would have ran into this industry 20 years ago. I wish I would have known more. I tell you what, it would have been a whole different story. But we're excited to be a part of the pool industry as far as the pool service goes. I love it. I love servicing pools. I'm going to probably gear down, probably I'm doing close to 20 a day now. So obviously, right. So I'm going to try and gear that down to 12 to 15 next year.
There you go.
Yeah, just, I'm 56. So, I'm trying to just cruise this thing on into retirement.
Man, you ain't 56. What are you talking about,
Yeah,
bro?
56, boss man.
Man.
So, but yeah,
Well,
love it.
I was gonna say, finally, how can people support you, and where can they shop, follow, or connect with Revd Up?
Well, you know what? If they want to support us, just go like our Instagram page, share our page. You don't have to purchase our products to support us. But if we can be of support, if we can help you with your branding, if we can help you with your customization on your logo, things like that, and help you get out there and grow your business through your apparel, we would love to be a part of that. You know, www.revdupapparel.com is our site. Um, you know, again, we're not going to reach out and we're not going to hard sell anybody. Anybody that wants to do, take a look at our product, we'd love to speak with you. No cost consultation. We'll show you what the program is about. We just introduced a new startup program for the person who's not exactly sure. You know, is it a right fit for me? What we'll do is for $150, we're going to give the design consultation. We'll provide the artwork. We'll do the design for them. We'll host it. We'll post it, and we'll include the first shirt for free. Or not for free, but we'll include the first sheet at no additional cost. Right? So for $150, a single polar who may not have $500, $600 to get new apparel can get in the game, get their first shirt, get their artwork created, and now they can go on and purchase as they need it because, again, no minimums. You don't have to purchase 12 or 24. You can purchase as little as one. Right?
Man.
So
What's your Instagram handle?
Our Instagram is RevdApp1. So RevdApp1, I believe.
You want to double check? Should we double check?
Let me check my phone. Hang on.
Let's check our phones. We gotta be sure.
I've had to learn so much with this whole
technology.
Yeah, with the Instagram. You know, I'm not a big social media guy.
RevdApp1.
Yes.
There it is, guys.
Go out there, like us, share, spread the word. That's how you can support us.
Awesome. All right, man. We're gonna end this like we do with all our guests, and that's one piece of advice you'd give our listeners today. It could be about business, it could be about life, whatever's on your heart, but one piece of advice that you want people to hear.
Man, why couldn't you have given me that, like told me that so I could think about that, have something prepared? What's the one thing I would share?
Any advice?
Patience, man. Patience. Learn patience. It's one thing I lack in. It's my albatross. I fight daily to be patient. So, and then the other thing I would think is the greatest gift you can have is wisdom, right? Wisdom just comes from experience. You know what? I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Boom. Let's go.
So, okay. So how many times in life, you're starting out your day and things just aren't going right? Flat tire, your pole breaks, the vacuum battery dies, and you just keep saying to yourself, "Why, God? Why are you punishing me? What did I do? Why do I deserve all this? Right? What did I do so wrong?" And so that's how I used to approach it. And so I was listening to, I think it was Andy Frisella, and he was saying, instead of looking at it as you being punished, why not look at it as a lesson? Why don't you try to figure out how to fix this? And so next time this happens, guess what? You don't have to sit there and go, woe is me. You know exactly what you need to do to get past that, to get over it. And so I've started to look at every adversity as a lesson or a challenge to get better, to learn in life. And so instead of saying, hey, why am I being punished, or woe is me, more of, so how can I learn from this? How can I get better?
Thanks so much, Don. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Big shout out to our guest, Revd Up Apparel. Make sure y'all show some love, grab some merch, follow them, follow their movement. This podcast is about community, and today we showed just how real that support can be. Until next time, stay blessed, stay grinding, and always stay revved up. Thanks a lot, Don.
Peace out, man. Thanks, Pete.
Let's ride.